This video marks the second week of the creature catcher that I'm working on. To set up the encounter system, most of this week was spent reworking the movement system. I wanted the player to get that old school tile snapping feel when walking and running around, so I made the player controller operate on a coroutine instead of during the update method. This allows me to move the player from their current tile to an adjacent tile, ignoring input during the walk cycle. Before walking, the controller checks with the floor, wall, and obstacle tile maps to ensure the tile is valid to stand on. This allows for collision checking without the colliders, as all I need to do is see if an obstacle is painted onto the tile map. Once stepped on, the tile will fire an event that checks for encounters, entering one if found. The encounter scene is loaded additively, switching the camera from overworld view to UI only view. By setting it up like this, it allows me to keep party and item data constantly accessible, regardless of whether or not the player is inside a battle. Once inside the encounter, the player is presented with 4 options, although only flee is currently implemented. For now, this is just dummy UI, and will eventually be hooked into the player's party data, along with their names, stats, moves, and more. After exiting combat, the player is safe for 5 steps, to give the opportunity to move out of a dangerous area. Additionally, I've added a main menu with options to start a new game, continue your current one, quit, and see the credits. On a more personal note, to not brand myself as a poser, I've started playing Pokemon Heart Gold as a sort of game design case study. I've only ever played a handful of Pokemon games, most of them being remakes of Red and Blue, so I decided to get a better insight into what makes a good creature catcher. Something I've noticed is how the player is area locked until defeating gyms, presumably to not sequence break this story. I like how the rival fights are usually in between gyms, and act as a sort of guideline for how you should be at that point in the game. The rival is essentially a stat check for the player, seeing if your party is diverse enough and adequately leveled for the next challenge. I don't really know how to fit this in with the theme, but a similar mechanic including the rival and the gyms is something I will definitely aim for in the coming weeks. Until next week, thanks for watching.